What's going on there, folks? Good evening. It is the Earthmaster here on this Friday party night for some people out there, not for this guy, that's for sure. It is for April 21st, 2023, about 10:03 p.m. here along the West Coast in the state of California. And the latest earthquake activity looks like a 2.1 around the Turkey region. That is the latest earthquake here on the globe. Before we jump into earthquake activity, kind of want to chat about, well, a space weather event headed our way. We did have a surprising large filament eruption earlier today that was directly in Earth view. So we are looking at a specific impact from this filament eruption. It did spark off an M flare. And a CME, pretty nice CME that was Earth directed. You can see on this visual right here, it's kind of a full Halo CME directed at Earth once again. And what does that mean? Well, that means a little enhancement to the Aurora forecast here. It looks like around the 24th UTC time. So that's going to be, well, depending on where you're at here on the globe. But we'll cover that a little bit more later once the NOAA forecasters analyze the CME. So they're going to review this data, review how strong this CME may have been, the filament eruption, and then they'll go from there, seeing what they're going to forecast. So yeah, pretty cool. I really wasn't expecting any type of event there, but sometimes these prominences do take off there from the sun, and that's exactly kind of what happened here today. It did produce a M flare. Check this out here. Bring this up and show you guys. Did produce a low-grade M flare, but notice that long duration here, indicating that CME that was produced and Earth directed. Pretty crazy. So we'll continue to report back on that. Right now, doesn't look like, let's see if they've updated the forecast. It's probably going to be tomorrow. It's going to be on one of these days here. Right now, shows green, but that is because this is in the forecast prior to the filament eruption. So we'll wait for that to be updated. Right now, looking at the, actually we got a pretty nice coronal hole over here, number 96. That will be rotating into view here in the coming days, which may elevate the space weather activity as well here on Earth. So we'll watch that. It's getting actually quite interesting here. There was a, here's the filament eruption from earlier. A beautiful dynamic setup here. You can just see it sparking a M flare, low-grade M flare. And as you can see here on the UV filter, it was directly lined up here with the Earth-Sun plane. So I'm kind of curious to see how strong this geomagnetic storming will be here in a couple days. It's headed to Earth pretty quickly. All right, magnetic structure here of the sunspots. That actually took place here from this sunspot region down here. Again, sometimes these prominences here do spark off and do create these, these type of eruptions here. Really wasn't a major solar flare threat today, but we did have one from that interaction there with the filament eruption from 3283. The latest imagery here shows that sunspot degrading and continuing to drift towards the western limb here of the sun. So, kind of watching this area here on the southeastern limb of the sun, maybe for some flaring once that gets into view. Right now, 95% chance of a C flare, M flare at 40, X flare at 1% chance. So we'll continue to watch this. Either way, for you Aurora sky watchers, stay tuned here. I think this will be a good one. I'm probably guessing maybe a low grade G2 class storm here around the 23rd, 24th time frame. We'll see what the NOAA folks give out there in the forecast. Again, they'll probably be updated here by tomorrow morning's update. There's another image of it, the filament eruption. Beautiful shot here from the solarham.net site, showing that that feature there on the sun. Pretty awesome. All right, let's get into earthquake activity, see what's going on here across the map. Looking at the latest USGS map here and the EMSC here on the globe. Still noticing a blockage here of the earthquake momentum around the Java Trench. We've only seen a little small earthquake activity advancing across this plate boundary. Most of the activity here has been backbuilding across the Philippine plate, across Papua New Guinea, and areas around the Mariana Trench, all showing seismic uptick, but we're still waiting for some advancement here across the area. As far as latest activity here in this region, let's go ahead and zoom in here. Looks like that was a 4.8 occurring just south here of the Japan region, 12 kilometers deep. A little bit of activity off the coast here of Taiwan as well up here. Mariana Trench showing a, looks like a 4.6 in the Guam area. 6 o'clock this morning. So definitely a little bit of activity, more noticeable movement here across the western edge of the Philippine plate. And the EMSC model pretty much confirms that activity as well here, listed on the globe. Some smaller quakes here, not being mentioned by the USGS, but that's taking place here around the Molucca Sea and the Banda Sea area in this region here. Further down to the southeast, let's see what we got. A little bit of movement, of course, around the Tonga area from this morning. Some deeper movement quakes, 4.5. Down there at 361 kilometers deep. The GeoNet servers, well, stand by for a second here. Let's see what we got here. Across the area, looks like the latest quake of 3.3 4 hours ago, 20 kilometers south of the Wellington area. Now that is the felt reports. A minute ago, 3.7 coming in to the Milford Sound area of New Zealand. I do have a couple, well, actually I only have one seismograph station down there into the New Zealand area. It doesn't look like it's picking up that earthquake. But it looks like there was a 3.7 coming in here just off the Alpine Fault, that plate boundary. So still seeing a little bit of elevated activity here across the New Zealand region. I don't think that 3.7 is going to show up on any of these graphs yet, because it just took place. So when you add that 3.7 up here on the graph, it's still somewhat minor here. There's not a whole lot of earthquake activity uptick across the New Zealand area currently. And a look at the volcano areas of well, Taupo super volcano and other volcanoes across the area, they all look fairly calm for now. There's not a whole lot of seismic or volcanic activity shown here across the map. Right, let's see, out here in the mid-Indian Ridge, we did have that 5.7 early this morning, about 2 o'clock or so. Over here around the Mediterranean Sea, 5.5 kicking up here. Earlier this afternoon, it looks like 11 kilometers deep. Look at the EMSC model globe here. Does show that 5-pointer in the mix there as well. Definitely a noticeable uptick here, but we got to watch this seismic gap zone here from this region all the way around this plate boundary. It's kind of locked and loaded, and it's kind of got a brick wall it's got to build up against here. We'll watch this area for some potential larger scale movement over the next couple days. Into the Puerto Rico area, latest quake looks like a 3.4 up around the Puerto Rico Trench, 68 kilometers deep. Some scattered activity also around the Dominican Republic area. See if I can spit that out. I've been out doing some yard work again. There's another 3.2 coming in to the New Guinea area, it looks like. South America region, looks like we had an earthquake around the Peru area earlier this afternoon of 5.3, 37 kilometers deep here along the Peru-Chile Trench. And of course, this activity somewhat heightened following some divergent boundary activity out here. Excuse me. Into the areas of the Southeast Pacific Rise. They are off the map now. but we did see a little activity offshore here over the last couple days, adding some strain out here along the Peru-Chile Trench. All right, what do we got here for the States? Not a whole lot going on across the eastern portion of the country. Look at this earthquake right here. Look at 3.2 coming in earlier this afternoon, just shy of the Cascadia subduction zone. Look at that. This one right here kind of scares me because that's indicative of stress out here along this plate boundary, the major subduction zone. The tremor tonight, let me show you guys the tremor. 21st, yep, 623 epicenters here along the Cascadia subduction zone, mostly around the Seattle and the Vancouver Island ranges, but a little bit of a noticeable uptick here across the Oregon area, adding some strain back upstream. And this little earthquake here, 10 kilometers deep, just onto the it's along just west of the plate boundary here of the subduction zone. Not for sure exactly what you want to call this area, what basin it is, but there's a couple different oceanic faults out here that are very close nearby to that 3.2. But either way, that's an obvious sign here of some impending pressure into the Cascadia. Earlier this morning as well, into the southern end of the Cascadia subduction zone, a 1.8 and a 1.8 within hours of each other. So definitely still rocking and rolling out there, adding to the strain of the next big mega earthquake into the Cascadia. 1.7 up here in Washington, about 10 kilometers deep or so. See what we got here for the rest of California. We got what do we got going on out here in Williams? Highway 20, 2.4, very shallow earthquake here. There is the Great Valley Thrust Fault that runs through here. Not listed on the map. I'm really surprised it's not, but kind of an older fault system that runs here across the area of Colusa County, just west of Williams. Looks like that earthquake coming in about 9 o'clock this morning or so. Activity around the Clear Lake volcanic field, very typical. Let's see what we got here across the Bay Area of California. Looks like we did have a 2.9 on the San Andreas Fault here. Also that 3.2 coming in earlier near the Hollister region off on the Calaveras Fault area. But a little slight uptick here across the region. Long Valley supervolcano, very minimal movement at best. Latest quake looks like a 1.3 Bodfish area, California. The southern end of the San Andreas Fault looks quiet for now. Let's make sure that it remains that way, right? We don't want to speak anything bad into existence because this one right here will create havoc for mankind there in Southern California. We don't want to stir that thing up. Yellowstone National Park, nothing showing up here across the graph. So let's do some digging around. What do we have here? Looks like a little bit of activity up here around the borehole 950 area, B950, showing what looks like some seismic activity showing up here. Some odd earthquake activity as well. Not necessarily showing up across all of the graphs here. This is very small earthquake activity, but it is showing up slightly around the Mary Lake area as well. So we know it's some type of minor earthquake activity occurring at the northern end of the Yellowstone caldera area. Aside from that, all areas look fairly calm. Let's see what else we have. Alaska, anything going on up here? A little bit of movement out here around the volcanoes again, near the Takawanga and the Tanaga volcanoes. A couple smaller earthquakes here over the last 24 hours. Nothing major going on. We do have a pretty deep earthquake here, 173 kilometer deep, 4.7 into the Aleutian Trench. Watch that pretty closely. That could add some further uptick here in the volcanoes across the area. Some further microquake activity across the region of Alaska. Let's see if we're missing anything else, folks. Definitely some deeper movement into the South America region. There's a couple earthquakes here around the Middle America Trench. Not really showing up there on the USGS map. Some very shallow earthquake activity, a 4.1 and a 4.2 off the coast of this area right down here. .8, there we go, stretching up around the Java Trench, trying to make some momentum here across the area. It's trying. Also New Zealand, what did we speak into existence here? That is that 3.8, right? I think that the GeoNet servers that we're reporting, it is showing up on the EMSC model finally. So a little bit of elevated activity here. This is about the only region that has really seen, or really hasn't seen, too much adjustment here recently. Yes, we had some 4s and some 3s down there outside of the Christchurch area. That was definitely noted. But it really hasn't made up for all the long-term adjustment that's been going on up here across the rest of the plate boundary. So watch New Zealand. I think that's definitely on the list here for some further movement. All right, let's see what else we have. We covered space weather. Like I said, tomorrow morning we'll get a better view at the potential CME impact here that's coming up. I can't wait. Hopefully it's a good one there for you Aurora watchers. All right, West Coast activity. There's not a whole lot going on out here. In fact, we hit 84 degrees out here in Northern California today, the warmest day of the year so far. But man, are we expecting some 90s coming up next week. So I'm trying to watch this low pressure system here. Looks like it's trying to stretch into the California area around the first week of May. But we do have, there's some high pressure systems out here that's kind of blocking that pattern. It does look like it may be a cutoff low pressure system here. We'll watch this and see how this plays out as we get into the first week of May. Watching a whole lot of potential rainfall amounts coming up from the south here. It's typical monsoonal moisture. I don't know if that's going to be an early year for this or not. We are stretching into the potential El Nino pattern here come about summertime. Either way, it's been a weird winter, weird year as far as weather patterns go. So who knows how this is going to play out, but just going to have to watch it closely, right? All right, guys, let's see. I think that's about it. Let me check out the latest hazard notification system here on the Kilauea Daily Update. Volcano there on the Big Island. They have switched over to the daily updates because of elevated earthquake activity and inflation at the volcano. No active lava has been observed since March 7th of this year. Doesn't look like there's been any major changes at the summit or either rift zones here today. In fact, it looks like over the last 24 hours, deflation has been recorded. So that is the, obviously deswelling of the ground. Small flurries of earthquakes have occurred occasionally, it looks like, around the crater, but that's about it. No unusual activity has been noted. Again, this is all subject to immediate change. Kilauea Volcano is a very active volcano. Look at the latest information here on the earthquake activity. Shows still a little bit of activity here throughout the last 24 hours, but continue to watch this and see how it plays out. I do think that we're more likely to see an eruption here soon, but we need to see a little bit further earthquake activity in swarming fashion down below the surface before that happens. But right now, we're kind of at a pause. All right, guys, have a good night. Stay safe out there, and make sure you have an earthquake plan. Just be on guard. New Zealand area northward, Kermadec Trench area, all pretty quiet right now. We'll catch you guys back here sometime tomorrow. It's a weekend, right? Definitely the weekend. Take care. We'll catch you guys later. Have a good one.